The threat of the next Avatar series is looming. It's gonna come and change everything, and I have very strong thoughts about that because I really want it to be good, because Avatar The Last Airbender is so iconic and Korra is iconic a lot of the times. So I have compounded a list of my wishes / predictions / pleas for mercy for this new show. These are a mix of smart, constructive thoughts with argumentations and reasons, and there are also random wishes I have, and so you're getting a nice little mix. The only real thing we know about this show is that it will be about the next Earth Avatar that will come after Korra, so it will be set after her death, and it will be likely set in the time period close to the modern day. That's all you really need to know, so we can get into the list. Number 1, my first plea is simple and short, and that is to keep it 2D animated so that it can match the rest of the shows. I don't know what they're planning to do. They could use 3D animation like they have done in the other shows, but I still need it to look predominantly 2D. That seems like what they are actually doing. So that's it. We can move on to number 2, which is a little bit less serious. I would love for the animal guide to be either a cat or a water creature, or both, thanks to the Avatar animal hybrid technology. The reason for that is that I love cats and I love water monsters, and you put them together and we have the best of both worlds, like Hannah Montana herself said, and we could have a catfish. Okay, it's time to get serious. You don't have to click off the video. Number 3, a big question, a big question, if you will, that we have to answer is, what about the losing connection to the past lives of the Avatar in season 2 of Korra, which was basically universally panned by the fans who want to get to know more about the past Avatar. Some might argue that maybe they could have retconned it back in the day, but they still have time to retcon it now. In Korra, we had basically no way of learning what happens after Korra's death, and the fact that there are no past avatars anymore means that she started her own avatar cycle, whatever that means. And I don't want this story to be all about that. I want it to be independent. I don't want it to focus exclusively on the connection to the past lives or regaining it. I'd rather just have Korra have done that off screen and fixed it. Maybe it's tied to how she died mysteriously or something. I need the show to be first and foremost developing the new cast instead of just talking about the past avatars. Point number 4 is very much linked to the previous one, and that is that I am begging for them to not make this new show a nostalgia fest, and that is a big actual threat that we have to think about, because looking at the media coming out today, we have reboots, we have remakes, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. I don't want Avatar to fall into the same trap, and since the original TV shows are such a big part of a lot of people's childhood, I can just sense that people out there want to exploit that and make that into nostalgia bait. But I don't think Avatar needs that. We don't need to rely on nostalgia. What we need is a new, great and original story. I don't want the show to just go over the things that happened in a different show, right? I need them to visit completely new locations, because imagine if we get a show where the entire time when we're visiting a location, they're talking about how, oh, remember how Avatar Aang went here? And they're making jokes about that instead of doing something new. We need new locations, new legends, new threats and conflicts, because otherwise they're gonna make the world seem small, like there's nothing else to explore in the Avatar world besides the things that we all have already seen. Obviously, they can reference the previous shows when it makes sense. I expect that and I'm not mad at that. But I need the show to stand on its own, especially since it's coming out so long after the originals. And we can't have every character be a descendant of someone we know, but that's beside the point. Point 5, another random thing. I think it would be sweet if the avatar came from an unusual area. And what I mean by this is the desert, the top of a mountain, the swamp. The Earth Kingdom is shown to be really huge and it has many possibilities, and foreshadowing they might not even be from the Earth Kingdom, even though they're the Earth avatar. So we have a lot of options. I admit that this idea came to me because of Legend of Genji, which was this very popular fan-made imagining of the next avatar, and the main character came from the desert and started off as a sandbender. And I think if we did something similar, we would instantly have a character that's able to stand out from the previous one. Point 6 is another thing that relates to what Korra did. She's just catching strays in this video. I promise that I like her, and I like that she's flawed, but basically she opened the spirit world portals, 3 of them, so the spirits have the access to the material world. We know from the later seasons of Korra that the New York equivalent is being taken over by a bunch of vines and angry little critters, and that's not very convenient for the people who live in Republic City, of course, who all of a sudden are chased out of their houses by like hedgehogs. I feel like this should be addressed maybe in some way, because you think about spirits like Ko the Face Stealer, who can now just come into the human world and there's no problem, and I think that is a problem. So in the new show we'll probably get some sort of reference to that, and that the areas around these portals, so the South and North Pole, as well as the Republic City, have been slowly taken over by these spirits. If the new avatar has to fight spirits, I do hope that they make it better than Korra Season 2. Point 7. If we're talking about the bad guy, I would prefer it to be a human and not just a bunch of spirits with no personality. I love the idea of maybe linking those two and exploring the people who hate spirits and are only pro-human because of the things that the portal's been open has resulted in. We could have the avatar fight, for example, a big company that says they want to destroy the spirits but are actually mostly destroying nature. I think that would be, I don't know, topical. And then the leader of this company could be the main villain who has inventions that the avatar will have to fight with traditional bending, which is tied to nature, of course, because it's the elements. Or since this is a more political issue, we can explore how in the modern world just being the best fighter wouldn't be enough and they would have to do something else to save the world. Point 8. Time for another random ask. Yay! So assuming this show is successful, we get another series about the next avatar, which would be the fire avatar, and I want that avatar to be a girl. So I assume that for that to happen in the future, we need this Earth avatar to be a guy, so that we have 2 male avatars and 2 girl avatars in these shows. Why do I want a female fire avatar, you ask? Great question, because we don't have one. For every other element we have both a male and a female avatar who is named. For air we have Aang and Yang-Chen, for water we have Kuruk and Korra, and for earth we have Queen Kyoshi and some guy whose name I'm forgetting, but he is named. And then with fire we have Roku and Seto, who are both men. I'm not counting random background avatars, by the way, in these like sprawling shots of the past avatars. I'm not counting that because they don't have names and they are interchangeable. Also, I think if the avatar is a girl in the Earth Avatar show, she has some tough competition with Kyoshi, who is just so incredibly iconic, and she is also an Earth Avatar, and also Toph, who is a girl, and she is also everyone's favorite Earthbender. Point 9. I don't think this even needs to be mentioned, but I'm gonna say it anyway, just in case. I want the upcoming Avatar media, not just this TV show, to still be aimed at the whole family. This means the same kind of audience that the original shows had. They might hyper focus on their adult audiences who loved the show as children and now are dedicated to seeing the new show, because that is truly a big audience. But what they do need to remember is that we, the adults who love the show, still love the show that is made for kids still, if that makes sense. I don't want them to go into like a dark version. This is not your mom's avatar. This is scary and they swear. I don't really need that. I think I speak for all of us when I say that we will still watch it if it's for the same demographic as Atla or Korra. It should at the same time be important to keep the depth and messages, keeping it understandable for a child, so a child and an adult can enjoy the show just as much. I do not want them to alienate the kid audiences, because for this new show to survive, I think it needs the support of children like the OG had back in the day. But then again, I wish that they do not go too young with that and create a show that is just for kids and it's just noise and colors. Point 10. When it comes to new stuff, I would genuinely love them to explore some of the new abilities. Did you realize we have never had an avatar generate lightning or bloodbend? We can have one now through metal bending, healing, and whatever astral projection Jinora does, and we have so many new skills. They could even come up with some new ones as long as they make them make sense and it's well thought out. And I think with a more modern world, electricity and metal would be everywhere, maybe more useful than fire and earth for this new avatar. And you can always find blood anywhere. And astral projection will likely come in handy too. For this all to work, I think they need to develop these skills enough that we can visually distinguish between all of the types of bending, old and new. This used to be a huge part of Earthbender, with waterbending being fluid, while earthbending was more grounded, etc. And then when they introduced, let's say, bloodbending, they made it have a special puppeteer-like style to it. With Korra, it got a little bit more fuzzy, and by the end, a lot of bending was just boxing and even telekinesis. And I want to go back to the beginning so that we're setting this magic system apart from others that exist in other media. I just remembered about lie detecting. That's a skill that they could also learn. Oh, and lava. And combustion bending. Imagine we could have an avatar master every subtype of bending. We can make this thing 10 seasons. Think about it. Point 11. My last point. This one is my Roman Empire. I think about this a lot. Maybe too much. So, to explain this, in Atla, we see the 4 nations separated by the war, but then in Korra, it's peacetime and people are free to move around, and this resulted in places like the Republic City having an incredibly diverse population. We saw for the first time characters who are from the same family but they have different elements. For example, Mako and Bolin, who are a firebender and an earthbender respectively, but they are also brothers because their mom came from the Fire Nation and their dad from the Earth Kingdom. That's possible because of the peace times. Then, in the show, Bolin, who is an earthbender, starts a relationship with an airbender, Opal, and he still has those Fire Nation heritage a little bit. So if they have a child, for example, then that's already 3 elements in one family genetically. And who says that that child couldn't marry a waterbender, and then that's every element? And I imagine that by the time the new Earth avatar is born, there will be a lot of such families. So there is a possibility that the Earth avatar is a part of a multi-elemental family and their masters could be their own relatives. Let's say their mom is an earthbender and their dad is a waterbender, while their cousin is a firebender, and so on. We've never really gotten into what being the family of the avatar would be like, because Aang didn't really have a traditional family and Korra's parents were technically there. Were not that important as much as maybe they tried to do with her dad, but whatever. I still want the show to be about the avatar, not like the sibling of the avatar, but I think they would be a great supporting character to explore what their life would be like. Okay, I need to stop talking now because this is a lot. I might come up with more and make a part 2, I don't know. So subscribe because I'm planning on uploading weekly videos on the Avatar universe, Marvel and other things that come to my mind. This is my first real video on YouTube and I have many exciting things planned. So exciting. I want to make videos that I would genuinely watch and I want to be consistent. So subscribe if you want and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!